This is Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16-meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galeto. Our guest today is Professor Ezekiel Gebissa. He is OSA President-elect to tell us about a symposium in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
What is OSA view about Oromo protest?
The OSA view is in part historical, that we see that this protest is not an isolated incident. It is a culmination of the Oromo struggle, at least for the last 30 years. A lot of forces that have contributed to the maturation of the Oromo consciousness about Oromumma and their right to self-determination. So OSA sees that this is what we see in Oromia and in that part of the world is basically a culmination of many years of struggle that the Oromos have waged against the authoritarian, totalitarian, colonialist regime. It's a time that the consciousness of the Oromo people and the Oromo youth in particular has reached a critical point, and that is being manifested in a struggle that is really informed in many ways by current methods of struggle. It's a very mature struggle. It's mediated by the social media and other forms of technology. It's the last stand that the Oromos have taken against many, many years of being politically marginalized, economically exploited, and culturally oppressed. Because OSA sees this as a struggle for human rights, for economic equality, for political participation, for peace and prosperity for all. And this is what the Oromo people back in the country that have now taken the lead in the Oromo social movement are doing. And the rest of us that are outside the country are standing in support of them. It's a human struggle. It's a struggle for human rights that all people around the world that are standing for the same demand should also support. So that is how we see the Oromo struggle or protest movement in the country.
Why 28 EU members meeting on Monday?
Well, that I can't say because the announcement was sudden, but I can surmise, I can speculate about it. I think I don't have really an insider's information on why the European Union external branch had decided to have a hearing on it, or a conclave as they call it. But I can simply surmise that they have had it with this regime. They have supported the Ethiopian government for many years for a number of reasons, for economic reasons, for the fight against terrorism. They have tolerated it for many, many years when the Ethiopian government had taken steps that are not consistent with the values of the Western civilization. Not only now, at many levels, that they had excluded the opposition, they have excluded competing parties, they have excluded people within the country, they have imprisoned, they have harassed, they have killed, especially after 2005. But the overriding objective of the Western government, including governments in Western Europe and the European Union, was the fight against terrorism. But I think after a win of 100%, at a time that many expected that the Ethiopian government would expand the political space to include at least some semblance of opposition, at the time that people thought that the win would not be total and stifling of the opposition, but it 100%. And in the aftermath of that it unfolded an economic policy that simply contributes to the well-being of the very few cabal and to the impoverishment of many people in the country, that they think that this is not to stand, that a government that proclaims itself to be democratic, has a constitution that allows for free expression and free assembly and association, would simply go on killing people. I think the European governments simply have determined that the behavior of the Ethiopian government goes against everything that the West stands for, against Western values of equality and liberty and justice and Western values of democracy and human rights. They have decided that what the government is doing violates any principle of humanity and civilized behavior. And most importantly, I think that they see the behavior of the Ethiopian government as counterproductive to their own goals. I think their goals in Ethiopia and in that region is stability, seeing the Ethiopian government as a stabilizing force in a neighborhood that is disturbed. But the way it is actually behaving today, turning its own army, the army that was supposed to be defending the country is turned against its own people. I think they have decided that this is just enough. I don't know what their motives are, but I think we have to do our level best to capitalize on the opportunity to drive home what the Oromo struggle is all about, to drive the narrative, to shape the conversation in Europe and in the Americas or everywhere else in the world. So I think they simply have had it with the behavior of this government. I think that's what necessitated the conclave.
Tell us about a symposium about ongoing Oromo protests and the master plan.
Yeah, this is when the protest movement in Ethiopia started. The Oromo Studies Association issued a statement decrying and denouncing the measures and the steps that the Ethiopian government had taken. As a scholarly organization committed to the idea of generating and disseminating knowledge about the Oromo people, also determined that our role as an organization and its members is, again, to do what we do best, that is to investigate, to support our claims with research data on the multiple dimensions of this very complex and problematic crisis of land use and property rights in Ethiopia, to show the disconnect between the promises of the government and its actual behavior, and support whatever claims that the Oromo people are having with concrete empirical data. We promise to do that, and we're trying to deliver on that promise. Also believes that the master plan is injurious to the environment. It's not consistent with the principle of environmental justice. It violates the Ethiopian constitution. It violates the principles of federalism on many levels. It simply is a rule of violence that the Ethiopian government has embarked on, a rule of violence that should not be tolerated, and that this is not simply a claim by the opposition. This is not simply by diaspora-driven political agenda, but it is real. People are deprived, they are suffering under environmental injustice, that their rights as human beings are not protected. That's the goal. That's the goal of the symposium, that we will be able to disseminate this information first by kind of streamlining and broadcasting the proceedings of the symposium. And afterwards, we will collect the papers and then issue very quickly an ebook that would be available for reference by governments around the world, human rights organizations, international organizations, the general public who wants to know, who needs to know what is really going on in Ethiopia.
Why this meeting is happening now, and who will participate?
All right, it's happening now because it's event-driven. As you know, that it's been 2 months, over 2 months since students began protesting the aggressive implementation of the federal government's controversial Addis Ababa Integrated Development Master Plan. And at the time, no one thought that this would be sustained, vigorous, and principled, and peaceful as it had been. What we're doing right now is simply in response to events on the ground. We're trying to simply step up to the plate to try to give voice to the voiceless, to try to articulate the demands that are being put up by the protesters, to highlight the constitutionality of their protests, the legitimacy of their demands, and that as human beings, when they are deprived, that they have the right to rise against tyranny.
What do you expect will come out of this symposium?
I guess what I would say is that what will come out is the goal of OSA is to create a media event that will inform the wider community, world community, international community about the behavior of the Ethiopian government, the legitimacy of and the rights of the Oromo students and the Oromo farmers and the Oromo people in general. The goal is to basically to inform the international community. The second goal that comes out of this media event is to shape the conversation among the Oromo community as well. That the movement in the country is not just about the master plan, as someone said, a French journalist said that the master plan is actually the tree that hides the forest. So we want to shape the conversation. This is not just about the master plan, but about larger issues, political, economic, social, cultural, and environmental issues, the inequities, the exploitation, the deprivation of many, and the rise of very few, the inequality that the policies of this government, the exclusion, the political exclusion, the cultural degradation, to shape the conversation about this movement. That it is not just about the narrow issue of the master plan around Addis Ababa, but whatever is going on around Oromia and around the country of Ethiopia in general. Thirdly, I think we're also trying to fill a gap. I think in the past we have not paid attention to constructing narratives. I think the Ethiopian government had done, for the better part of 2 decades, had done a very a good job of constructing narratives that had successfully brought together sympathetic Western interests and Ethiopian groups that are wary of the objectives of the Oromo struggle. I think we are winning in that respect. We are not losing the narrative. We are creating narratives that the world community could understand. So that is the media event. And the second level is after the day of the symposium itself, we're going to produce an ebook, a book that would be available to many, to whoever wants to know, a book that would be freely and widely circulated. I hope that these goals will be achieved, and I hope that they will contribute to furthering the goals of the struggle and aiding the work the gallant sons and daughters of Oromo are doing within Ethiopia, not only for the purpose of the liberation, when I say the liberation or the freedom of the Oromo people, but for all people who deserve freedom, democracy, development, and peace in the Horn of Africa.
Finally, how people participate or help out?
As I said, the event itself next Saturday, we hope that we'll be able to stream it live. Proceedings will be streamed live, but also that there are some media organizations that we have invited to help us disseminate the information and the proceedings and the findings. Follow what we're doing, and then pass on the word. Disseminate. Let the world know what's going on, and let the world know that the struggle of the Oromo people, the protest movement led by students in the country is legitimate grievances. They have the same rights as other people around the world have for democracy, for self-rule, for economic equity, and for respect as human beings. Right now, the humanity of the Oromo people is violated. We hope that this would be a turning point in which Oromos are respected for being human beings, but also respected for being citizens of a country, and that they enjoy the rights of citizens. It's about spreading the word. So help us spread the word, and let's continue to do the same with vigor and determination, and with clarity in articulating the cause of the Oromo people.
I'm talking to Professor Ezekiel Gebissa, OSA President-elect, about a symposium in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much.